Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to the Twisted and Sometimes Insomniac Comic Book Vault. It's about 1:20 in the morning, and I am finally doing my comic vault for the day. I gotta tell you, these Deadpool volumes are very, very thick, and they take a while to get through, and I didn't get a chance to get this done for yesterday with all the other things I'm working on and stuff, so very sorry about that, and sorry that this, well, yesterday, actually 2 days ago now, and sorry about how late this is going up. Also, we are moving, and we have so many boxes around the apartment right now that I am having a difficult time setting up the green screen sometimes, and didn't have really the practicality right at this moment to move everything around so that I could set up the green screen. So, sorry that I am not doing it the normal way with the vault right now, and things may be slightly chaotic until we get to the new place with things like that, but on the plus side, I'm able to drink Mountain Dew on screen, so there's that. Anyway, you can see boxes right there behind us while we're moving. And anyway, the new place I'm really stoked about. It's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait to show it to you when we get over there. We are moving. We're signing the papers for the new place next Tuesday, and we are moving all next week. And so expect some of our videos to be somewhat sporadic, but we should be posting some stuff in the middle of that. And anyway, let's get to Deadpool, shall we? Deadpool Classic Volume 3. This is still Joe Kelly in the middle of his run. This collects, I think, issues 12 through 17 or 18, somewhere around there. And this is, oh, I'm sorry, 9 through that far. See, there's just a lot in this. And this time it's all the monthly. It's all issues of the monthly series instead of any annuals or anything like that, of course, and it doesn't have any other random things in it, except it does have an issue, a classic issue of Amazing Spider-Man at the end, and I'll get to why that is here in just a moment. All that is very fun and interesting. This particular trade is much more of a cohesive story by itself than the other two have been, where a lot of the stuff in the other two would be kind of standalone stories right in the middle of everything. There's a little bit of that going on here, but I really like how the trades were put together in getting up to 3 and what exactly is collected in 3, because it really kind of feels like almost a beginning, a middle, and an end, reading it as a piece, which is kind of interesting. I have neglected to talk any at all about Deadpool's major supporting cast, and I'll do that here because it would be impossible not to. They figure so much into this. So Deadpool has kind of his own sidekick, this guy that helps him out with all of his merc stuff, this kind of tech guy who is, well, a Weasel, and that's his name, that's his nickname. He goes by Weasel, and he doesn't exactly have a loyalty to Deadpool. There's even a part in this first issue where he considers going to work for this random kind of C-list supervillain, and ultimately decides not to, not because he cares that much about Deadpool, but just because Deadpool beats that supervillain, and he decides that Deadpool's probably, you know, the better person to work for after that. So anyway, that's kind of Weasel, and he has this whole backstory that we discover during this time travel issue, where Deadpool and Blind Al get sent back in time to an old issue of Spider-Man, and I'll get to that in a minute, where we actually meet Weasel in the past, and we find out that he went to school with Peter Parker, and that he was actually geekier than Peter Parker was, and that he was an absolute genius, and he was kind of on the straight and narrow, he was on the fast track, and it's actually Deadpool himself pretending to be Peter Parker using a holographic imaging device, acting like Peter Parker, that ends up in the past turning Weasel down kind of this road of crime, and also turning him into an alcoholic, which is kind of sad and sort of bizarre, and of course makes you, you know, question whether or not Deadpool can ever really become a hero. It's so strange, I gotta say, reading about this character who does all of these horrible, horrible things to people, and who is a complete basket case, and totally nuts, and out of his gourd, and puts... He has this prisoner named Blind Al. She's the other major supporting character. I guess I'll talk about her now, who is this elderly woman who Deadpool has apparently been keeping as his prisoner for years. And if there was anything indicating exactly why she's his prisoner, I missed it. Maybe there was something in there in the first trade that I just skipped over or something on accident and missed. But I certainly didn't mean to, because I keep wondering about it. But there's a lot of mystery there. Blind Owl keeps acting like she's got this penance to pay, which is the reason that she stays with Deadpool in the first place. And Deadpool actually gives her every opportunity to run away, which is very strange. Now, she's blind, but she's also able to, get around Deadpool's place just fine, and she folds his laundry for him and does all these sorts of things, and makes dinner and things. So she's very capable. And there's one place in particular where, just because Deadpool has been in a bad mood because of what's been going on with him with both Siren and with Typhoid Mary from the last trade, he decides to take Blind Owl out and play this game that he does to her every now and again, where he tries to let her escape, and then always goes and finds her. And it's very disturbing. It's really not my kind of thing. It's kind of freaky, actually, when you really start thinking about it, especially when you find out that he actually has a torture chamber in his place, and he's got all these blades everywhere all over the place, and of course she's blind and can't see where any of them are. Apparently, at one point, because we actually see her go into the box in this, and apparently the idea was that Deadpool used to move all the blades around just to mess with her, and then now he's just left them all in the same place. And so now she kind of knows where they all are, but she still stays in the box whenever she's put in there, even though he leaves the door wide open. And he keeps doing this, where she actually has the ability to leave him anytime she wants to, very easily. But the reason that she doesn't, we discover later on, toward the end of this trade, is because there was one point where she befriended this person, and I forget exactly who it was, but there was this person that she befriended that she ultimately went and ran away to, and this person thought that he could hide her from Deadpool, and somehow or rather Deadpool tracked this guy down and mutilated him, and or at least killed him in a really terrible way. But I think it was something really horrifying, and Blind Owl never left again. Part of it is because of the fear of other people getting hurt, and part of it is because she feels she has some sort of penance to pay for terrible things she's done in her own past that are not entirely revealed to us. And the third thing is that she actually has developed this relationship with Deadpool and actually really kind of cares about Deadpool. They have this really bizarre relationship where she's constantly putting, horrible things in his food and playing practical jokes on him. And there's even one place, I forget if it's in this trade or the previous, where she actually messes with all of his guns and things, and at one point he fires a gun and it pulls out a bang thing, and like his blade falls apart when he uses it. Nothing works right, and so she's always playing these practical jokes on him. And of course that was a really pivotal place where then he gets kidnapped or something. So anyway, Blind Owl and Weasel both really are not my favorite kinds of characters. I really didn't care anything about his supporting characters up until this point, which is really the reason I didn't mention, just because there was so many other interesting things to talk about with Deadpool. I find myself liking Blind Owl a lot more by the end of this, and basically and I'll get into Deadpool's character arc here in a second, but basically with everything Deadpool goes through in this, and then by the end realizing that he may actually be like nearly the Matrix sense of the One. There's this prophecy by this guy that can read the future that Deadpool is supposed to. There's this precog that says that Deadpool is supposed to basically save the world in the future, and that there's apparently some other people that may be the One, but Deadpool seems to be at the top of that list. And so as Deadpool starts to kind of, as he gets in like the darkest place we've seen him in this so far, and again I'll get to what that is in a second, by the end of this he finally tells Al that she can go free, and it's really it's a really emotional moment. And I start to really care a lot more about her at that point. And it's going to be interesting to see as I go further into this what happens with Blind Owl, because just as that happens, Deadpool mysteriously gets teleported. His teleporter seems to work on its own, and he suddenly disappears, and we don't know what happened to him. And he disappears just as he's telling Al that she's a free woman, and so she says, "Oh, I didn't hear the rest of that. Am I free? Can I leave?" And of course, she probably isn't going to just go, I would assume, because other points that she's broken the rules, terrible things have happened. Now, the reason that she gets thrown in the box is because Deadpool finds out that Weasel has been actually coming over, and it's completely against his rules to... And boy, I would never want to break Deadpool's rules. He's freaky. He's very scary, the things that he does to people. And what and the deal is, no one's allowed to come over to his place, besides Al, of course, because she's his prisoner and lives there. And so when he finally finds that out, he throws them both in the box and freaks out. And it's also in the middle of him being at this rock bottom place in his character arc. And a lot of what he has to learn is that he can't treat people like this, which of course should be obvious, but he's this mercenary, and he's also kind of crazy in the head, and all these horrible things have been happening to him. And he dealt with all those things with Typhoid from last issue, where she was trying to prove to him that he couldn't be a hero. And so he's starting to wonder if that's the case, and starting to think, wouldn't it be easier if I just stayed being a mercenary and kept doing that? And that gets kind of reinforced when he gets to, you know, this really low place dealing with that, and also being bullied by T-Ray and things like that. And in fact, T-Ray challenges him to this big fight, and he, you know, Blind Owl tells him not to go. Everybody's telling him that he shouldn't go do that, and he is, for a moment, isn't going to. Until he goes to what I think is actually the funniest, one of the funniest gags in the whole book. He goes to the set from Field of Dreams, which, by the way, is one of my favorite movies, and I was really excited when that was in here, because I actually knew that the baseball diamond from Field of Dreams is still there, and I think to this day you can still actually go visit it. And I always thought it was kind of cool that that's one of the only things like that where a thing got built for that movie, and then they left it there, and it's this movie where at the end it says, if you build it, they will come, and it's still there, and you can still go, and I always really liked that. But anyway, I'm a sucker for that movie, and so it's really fun, because he keeps making all these great Kevin Costner jokes, and it's one of the only times that I'm actually really laughing with Deadpool through a whole issue. And what happens is, because I'll make no bones about it, Deadpool's humor is not always my humor, and sometimes I find myself wanting to kind of skip his dialogue a little bit and get more to the plot. But so he goes to the Field of Dreams place, and he sees Siren there again. Siren won't have any of what he's doing. He's being really shallow. He's being really, well, that's not the right word. He's being really needy, and he's saying, "Oh, Siren, I really need you, because I'm down in the dumps and I'm having these horrible things." Well, Siren just went through some really horrible major things in an X-Force arc that just ended, which I know nothing about. But she's like, "Look, I don't know what your problems are, but you know, what about me? I also have these problems too, and they've got to be worse than anything that you've just gone through." And they probably were. It didn't sound too pleasant. And basically she tells him to get lost, and she doesn't want anything to do with him right now. And he doesn't take it well. Well, at the end of it, she shows back up and seems to have changed her mind. And they actually, it doesn't come out and say that they sleep together, but it sure looks like that's what happens. And it's in the middle of the baseball diamond from Field of Dreams, which I think is, again, really hilarious. And then it turns out that it was actually Typhoid Mary when she comes back, and that she pretends to be Siren, and I guess she's also got one of these holographic emitter things, and it totally throws Deadpool for a loop. And so so that's just after that he finds out about Blind Owl. All these things happen after that, and he just freaking crazy loses it. And so then he decides to go ahead and go fight T-Ray, which he's not supposed to do, and he gets totally pummeled by T-Ray, and that's when he's at his lowest point. I totally skipped over the Amazing Spider-Man thing. Let me go back to that really quick. There's this really silly thing at the beginning of this, Well, just before that, the first part of this is this kind of fun one-off issue. Let me mention that really quick. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Where there's this character named Death Trap, this villain that puts Deadpool, no joke, in a death trap. And the idea is that there's this teddy bear that's actually a weapon that will kill him. That is slowly descending as Deadpool is talking. And this guy wants to see if Deadpool will talk himself to death. And knowing that this thing is going to come down and try to kill him, Deadpool doesn't even hesitate. He just keeps cracking jokes the entire time. And it's kind of fun because it's kind of the epitome of what you would want to do with Deadpool if he totally completely was driving you crazy, and then he makes it 100% worse by not going along with the whole death trap thing and going ahead and going, fine, you hate me talking so much, I'm going to keep talking. And I actually kind of enjoyed it, and it reminded me of something from, there's a Tick issue that similarly did something like that. I don't remember where or exactly what issue that was, but I read an issue of the Tick once. It wasn't in the Ben Edlund run. It was later than that. But anyway, so then what happens is Deadpool, while he's taking Blind Al out and being a total jerk face to Blind Al, he gets sent back in time. Actually, he and Blind Al both do. Because he gets in a fight with this like B or C list superhero team that used to be kind of a like second stringer Avengers team. I forget what even that Avengers team was called, and now they're calling themselves the Lightning Rods. And there's this guy who's like Flatman or something, and he looks like Mr. Fantastic kind of. And there's this character named Big Bertha, and just characters that I've never heard of before. And they start fighting Deadpool like a supervillain, which is kind of fun to see Deadpool in the role of a supervillain, because he kind of ought to be. And then while they're in the middle of fighting, Deadpool tries to teleport he and Blind Al at the same time. And you're not supposed to do that, apparently, and he's never tried it before, he doesn't know what'll happen, and it sends them both actually back in time and space, and sends them to Amazing Spider-Man number 47, where they are trying not to mess up time, or at least Blind Al is trying not to mess up time, and Deadpool is running around doing things that totally could mess up time, and I guess he's kind of trying to, but in his sort of bizarre Deadpool way. And there's this really silly fun bit where Blind Al has to pretend to be Aunt May with her neighbor, with Anna Watson, and it's, I don't know, some of this is not exactly my humor. It gets a little crude for me, but it's still more or less pretty funny. And this was an issue where Spider-Man had to fight Kraven the Hunter, and Kraven the Hunter ends up fighting Deadpool instead, and it's really, I've already explained the important thing that happens in this, which is Deadpool being responsible for the way that Weasel is later, and that's pretty much what it's about. And the rest of it is just pretty much a lot of joking about Spider-Man of the past, and Deadpool making fun of. I think my favorite part is Deadpool making fun of the Osborn's haircut, which, you know, they have the cornrows, the red hair and the weird cornrows, and in the animated series, whenever they turn their head, the lines of the hair would actually stay, but they would move their head, and anyway, it was always really funny. So I always thought that haircut was ridiculous, and it was kind of fun to see Deadpool making fun of that. One thing I find kind of odd, of course, is that in the actual Marvel Universe, this wouldn't have been as far back as it clearly is here, because they're making fun of all these things from the 60s, and they never come right out and exactly tell you what date it is, which I really appreciate. But at the same time, it's kind of weird the way that Deadpool, not just the character, but the book itself kind of breaks the fourth wall, because at least at this point, Deadpool himself doesn't break the fourth wall much or really at all. It's much more, I mean, he'll talk about the tropes of being in a comic book, but much more of the actual fourth wall breaking happens with the, like, editor's notes and titles and things like that. And so it's kind of weird how this issue really draws attention to the fact that so much time passes while characters barely age in Marvel Comics, and I think that's part of maybe what it's getting at. But it's a little bizarre seeing somebody go back in time like this and it looking just like that issue. It's okay for Deadpool because Deadpool's mostly a comedy comic, and so anyway, but it's still a bit jarring and a little bit bizarre. So the art looks just like the art in that issue, and I think it was really cool that they managed it and what it looks like. It does go on a bit long. What I actually found this to be the most tedious part, as much fun as it was, and what made it tedious was that Deadpool, of course, keeps talking and talking like always, and then the storytelling is done exactly the same way as it would have been in Amazing Spider-Man number 47. And if you want to be sure, you can look at the actual book, at that actual issue in the back of this, which is that other issue that they put in this. And I thought it was really cool that they did that. The thing is, there were, of course, a lot more dialogue and narration boxes and things in comics from that period, and so then you add Deadpool's dialogue on top of that, and it's so long and cumbersome and takes forever to read. So anyway, that's my big complaint about that section, but it was kind of worth it just to see all that. It was really fun. So anyway, I think that's about what I want to say about this particular trade. I found the covers of some of these books to be really fun too. There's one where Deadpool is like, "Hey, that's my head." And it's just a picture of his head, and he's talking about his own head, and I think that's really funny. There's also, I should also mention, now that I'm thinking through this again, that there's also this section where Deadpool gets to fight with Bullseye and has all this banter with Bullseye, and I loved getting to see them together, and we find out that they kind of have a history together, which makes sense because they're both mercenaries, and Bullseye is telling Deadpool how he thinks that he's kind of lost his mojo and how he's noticing that Deadpool is not really killing guys while they're fighting. And they actually do this really cool thing where you see this panel where there's actually a line between the characters that Bullseye has just killed versus these guys that Deadpool has just knocked out, and they're just laying there but obviously still alive. And Bullseye basically says he's either going to have to give up being a mercenary completely, or Bullseye down the road is probably going to come and kill him, because after all, there's a price on his head that somebody has set, and why not if he's not going to continue doing his job? And so, anyway, I really like that part. I should also mention probably that there's this whole major plot. I guess I kind of talked about it a little bit, where Deadpool is supposed to be like the savior of mankind or something, and there's this group called LL&L, and they're finally getting really involved in trying to bring Deadpool in and make him fulfill this kind of savior role, which of course he totally freaks out about and doesn't want to do at the beginning, and then is starting to think maybe he has to, especially when this precog gives him these really cryptic things of the future, and these three big cryptic ideas of the future, and one of them actually tells him what he needs to do to solve his problem with Al, and actually tells him to close the door, which he discovers means he needs to close the door to the box, and so he does that, and then things are better with Al, and so he's starting to think that maybe this whole hero thing needs to happen. I gotta tell you, I resist this a little bit. I like the idea of Deadpool being on this road to redemption and trying to learn how to be a superhero. I don't feel like we need this cliched kind of prophecy plot in order to do that. That's just me. It doesn't do anything for me. It takes up a lot of space in the book, and I find myself really wanting to skip those portions just because, and I'm reading them, but I don't find them necessary. I think that Deadpool could go through this character arc without having to be told that he's supposed to be like the savior of the universe, and that, or of the world, or whatever it ends up being. It seems like a really obvious kind of contrivance just to get him in the direction that we really want to see him go anyway, that he can learn in much more of a personal kind of way, which he is already learning, and so I like that he was learning that from Siren, and that he's having to fight this battle between liking being a mercenary and wanting to help people, and that's played out really well with his interest in these two women, with Typhoid Mary and with Siren, one who wants him to do the right thing and one who wants him to do the wrong thing. And I just don't feel like this precognition plot is really necessary to do all that. It's set up well. It's there from the very first issue, and then was gone for a while, and was clearly always there in the background. It's just not real necessary to me. But anyway, so that's Deadpool Classic Volume 3. I'm still enjoying this. It's still absolutely not my kind of thing, but I'm glad I'm reading it, and I think that's pretty much what I want to say about it. Well, anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, for watching the Comic Book Vault, and hopefully I can come back tomorrow with another Deadpool Classic Vault. It just takes a while to get through these, and I don't want to rush it so that I know what the heck I'm talking about. And if there's anything you'd ever like to see me review on the Comic Book Vault, you can always send me things to our P.O. Box here at Geekvolution. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. Thanks a lot for joining me. I'm Captain Logan, and happy reading.